Hi, everybody, and welcome to another one of our GTS Publisher to Retailer webinars. I am here today with Keith and Claire from Thunderworks Games. Most of you may know them from Role Player, which is one of my favorite games. It's probably the most played Kickstarter game I have ever played. We've had it for several years and just continuously play it. We actually just checked because we were playing another game last night randomly, and we're checking our win percentages that I keep track of in this app called BG Stats. And my wife politely reminded, why don't you pull up Role Player and look at your stats versus my stats? So got that on a different webinar. So, but super, super fun games. Most of you probably know them for that. We're going to talk a little bit about that and that universe here, but we're also going to talk about a completely different game, and it's really opportune timing. So today, as we're recording this, it's April 5th, right after Easter. So I hope everyone had a wonderful Easter weekend. We are on April 9th, actually have orders due for Cape May, which is a brand new game that is going to be coming direct to retail distribution from Thunderworks. And it's actually their first one coming direct to retail, which is really, really cool. So I don't want to steal too much thunder because they have a lot of stuff to talk about. But if you have questions, I always like to remind everybody, you're welcome to open up your chat window if you're here live. You can send a message to either all panelists, which are myself, Keith, and Claire, or you can send a message to all panelists and attendees, and all the retailers will be able to see that. Keith and Claire, if you want to watch that, you're more than welcome to. If not, don't worry about it. I'll kind of manage it and kind of work the questions in as they come up. And if you're watching on YouTube, by all means, feel free to leave a question in the comments below. We'll be happy to get back to you and let you know any kind of answers that could help you with this product or any of the others. So with that, really do appreciate everybody joining, especially after a holiday weekend, especially some of you may not even be planning on working today. So I really do appreciate that. So with that, I'm going to take my beautiful face that was made for radio, let it be quiet. And Keith, Claire, I'm going to kick it over to you and let you guys get started.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. So, Claire, you want to kick us off here?
Yeah. So thank you for joining us this morning. Like Scott said, after a holiday weekend, I know it's kind of a crazy time. We're excited to be here. We're excited that Scott invited us this morning, and I am Keith's wife, Claire Mateka. He started this business several years ago. I had my own business, but shut that down with COVID, and joined his team this year. So I'm excited to be a part of Thunderworks Games on the back end now. And I will let Keith introduce himself.
Sure. My name is Keith Mateka. I am the founder of Thunderworks Games. We are out of Madison, Wisconsin. Been around for a while. Scott mentioned kind of Role Player and kind of Cartographers are our two kind of pillar titles. And we're here just today to say hi and tell you about some new stuff that's coming down the pipe, in case you're not aware. Thunderworks, I kind of do three different things. One, publishing my own stuff. Two, publishing other designer stuff. And then I periodically will design stuff for other publishers as well. So there we go. That's us with a lot more facial hair and a lot more less masks. So there we go. So this is some of the stuff that you might know us for, the Role Player line, and then the Cartographer stuff, and then we've got a handful of other titles. So in general, we usually publish two to four games a year, and small company, but there you go. So the big title that we want to talk about is Cape May. So Cape May is coming direct to retail. This is designed by a gentleman from the East Coast, and this is about Cape May, New Jersey. It's kind of a city building collection, mid-weight Euro game with some amazing artwork by Michael Menzel, and you may know from Stone Age and Pillars of the Earth and stuff like that. His look definitely screams Euro game, and that's what this is. So this is coming straight to retail, and the information is there. Plays 1 to 4 players. Obviously, has a solo mode. All Thunderworks titles have solo modes in them, and it takes about an hour and a half to play. And this is kind of what it looks like set up. So it has a map of the city of Cape May, New Jersey, and everyone has their own player board, and they're moving their character around the city, and they're developing different lands, different lots, I should say, into residential and commercial properties. And so it's got a lot of these little miniatures that you put out when you upgrade them to different they start out as one level and they go up a little bit more. It also has a bird watching element to it. So like if you go into certain spaces that are really good for bird watching, because the city of Cape May is known for its bird watching. And then you collect the bird tokens out of a bag and randomly, and you just try to get sets collected. You know, you've got the iconic lighthouse from Cape May that kind of tracks the rounds, and you are and you're trying to be the best developer. And there's a lot of scoring at the end of the game, but there's also lots of opportunities to increase your income as you go, which lets help you feed your engine. So that's Cape May.
I got a question for you, Keith.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that this may be in some people's minds, but it's definitely something that you're more than welcome to say, no, I don't want to answer, or something that you can jump into and get as waxing philosophical as you want to. But you know, you guys are predominantly known for role player and being on Kickstarter. Like you mentioned, you're a small company, you know, kind of the, you know, bootstrap kind of thing, so to speak. But I mean, you've obviously had a lot of success and you've done very well. So what helped you make the decision to make this a direct to retail game versus taking it to Kickstarter?
So I know you mentioned at the beginning that this is our first direct retail title, and that's actually not true.
Oh,
Cartographers was straight to retail.
Okay. I thought that was part of Kickstarter at one point.
No, the new version, which we'll talk about later, it went on Kickstarter, but the original version was not. So it was kind of like, I love the Kickstarter model, but it has a lot of, you know, it has a negative side as well, right? So one, you know, it eats, for the retailer's perspective, it eats up a lot of their demand at the beginning that they don't get to serve. Two, it eats up a lot of marketing budgets from the publisher side that when the game actually gets released, you know, a lot of times there's no marketing available left anymore, and they've moved on to the next project. Whereas if you go straight to retail, you can kind of just hit everything right when it's available, right? So those are some elements that make me say, hey, I want to push towards straight to retailer more and more. And I feel like certain projects make more sense for straight to retail versus using Kickstarter. And obviously, with the level of success that we've had in the last few years, I have the flexibility to send more stuff straight to retail and less to Kickstarter. And the other element of it is that I think Kickstarter backers have a certain tolerance for how many games can be kind of outstanding from a publisher at one time for Kickstarter projects. So, you know, I kind of feel like that's 2, maybe 3, if you have like a good like you're well, you know, you have good reputation or whatever, people have faith in you. But I want to be doing more than 2 or 3 games a year sometimes. So that means, okay, well, let's figure out which ones of these are going to go straight to retail.
That's great.
This one is isn't, you know, in line with all my kind of traditional fantasy stuff. It's kind of branching out. So like as Thunderworks, you know, I don't, as much as I love role player and as much as I love cartographers and fantasy stuff, like I don't want to be like the fantasy company. You know, I want to be able to, you know, I want to be able to do more things than that. So, you know, we did a game called Dual Powers, which is set during the Russian Revolution, and this is kind of also has some historical elements to it. So I kind of like these historical games. So I want to be able to do more of them. So I'm doing this one.
Awesome. That's all good stuff. I mean, those are things that I'm sure hit on a lot of points for our retailers, right? And we have a lot of discussions on here about Kickstarters and why Kickstarter, why not Kickstarter. I think it's really cool that you have the bird watching element in there. I'm actually from New York originally, and I know where Cape May, New Jersey is, and very familiar with some of the stuff around there and everything. So it's very kind of cool to have that. You know, pretty much, I'm willing to bet that if you were to take, you know, 1,000 gamers and tell them, name me a game about birds, like everyone's going to say Wingspan. Every single person on the planet is going to say Wingspan. So if you have people in your store that have done really well with Wingspan, which I really don't know any retailer that has not done well with Wingspan, it's obviously an easy connection there to say, oh, if you liked Wingspan and you like that bird element, that this game has that as well, which is a really, really easy selling point, which is really cool. Plus, Michael Menzel's name is not a bad thing to have anytime. He's an amazing artist.
He's an amazing artist, yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of Cape May. It's got a ton of miniatures in the box. It's a Victorian city, 1900s. You've got it's a U.S. city. To be honest, like I was not familiar with this city at all when I first found this game, but I've done a lot of research on it. It's pretty fascinating time, and it's kind of a fun area of the country to highlight. So
Very cool.
So anyway, unless there's any questions about more questions about Cape May, I'm just gonna move on.
Yeah, no, feel free. Like I said, as things pop up in chat, I will let you know. Retailers, just so you know, and you're watching, I did put a link in the chat window to be able to pre-order online. So if you want to do that, you're more than welcome to do that. Of course, you can always contact your rep as well at GTS, and they'll get you pre-ordered as well.
Awesome. So we've got a couple other games that are coming. So these are some games that were on Kickstarter last year that are kind of getting close to being available in retail. So one, Role Player Adventures is my big behemoth of a game. So this is this is the idea that you've played role player and you've made your character, and then everyone seems to always ask, like, well, now I want to do something with my character. What can I do with it? Well, this is the answer to that question, right? So and Role Player Adventures is a sprawling, narrative-driven choice, kind of choose your own adventure style game that happens over 12 adventures, that has dice manipulation like you'd expect in a role player game. But the big hook is that you can take any character that you've built in role player using any expansion or promo stuff, and you can import that character into this game and go through the adventures on. So, and if you don't have that, I have quite a few pre-generated characters that you can use as well. So this is a big title. It's coming. It's in manufacturing right now, and it will be available. The plan is July. So, I mean, with freight and everything else, sometimes we don't know. But this is kind of a shot of it in play. But basically, there's 12 different maps because there's 12 different adventures, and every adventure has its own storybook. And then you've got these. Everyone has their character sheets where they're managing all the things that their weapons and armor and all that stuff. And the big hook of this game for me is being able to, the game is tracking all your decisions in a variety of different ways. You've got faction that, like, as you make decisions for one group, then like maybe another group doesn't like you as much, and there's kind of consequences for that. There's you earn titles as you play, so it's like it's keeping track of your big decisions, so that like later on in the 3 adventures later, when that guy shows up again, he's gonna remember what you did, and he's gonna react accordingly and stuff. So there's multiple systems like that, and the writing is just fantastic. So this was kind of a labor of love for me, for sure. We spent a long time on this game, and this was on Kickstarter last summer, and we're about to start packing it on the boat soon. So this one's coming up, and then this is just a GIF of like all the stuff that fits in the insert. So I know that a lot of times retailers will ask me questions about like, hey, what about this as Kickstarter exclusive? Because I know a lot of people like to do that. I don't like to do that. So the retail version of this game is identical to the version that the Kickstarter backers are going to get. So you, as a retailer, you don't have to worry about like, well, I got like the dumbed down version that nobody wants to buy. You get the same thing that the Kickstarter backers would get. So, and this is the expansion for that game that is available at the same time. So these two things are being made at the same time. If you're familiar with Role Player, you get a backstory in that game, which is kind of just fluff text. It's got like maybe 150 words, or actually less than that, maybe 100 words. That gives you a real brief backstory about your character. So this expansion, what it does is when you import those characters into Role Player Adventures, each one of those 41 different backstory cards has its own like mini quest that's in this book, to kind of create even more divergent experiences for players, to make them want to play it over and over, over multiple times, and add more kind of custom experiences for players. So this is the majority of this box is this massive book. It's like, I want to say it's well over 300 pages of choices, and it's got a bunch of new items and stuff. So this one is part of the Role Player Adventures kind of thing, and it's also available at kind of the same time. Moving on, I've got the next Cartographers game. So Cartographers Heroes is a standalone Cartographers game in which you can integrate it into the regular cartographers game if you want to as well, for just like more variety. So the big, it has the same MSRP as the original version. Not that, if people are familiar with cartographers, they'll be able to jump into heroes like super fast. So the big changes are, they've got these new hero cards, which you see up on the left-hand side here. And heroes, when they come up in the deck, you play them and they basically can attack monsters that are on your sheet. So the monsters are meaner, but there's more heroes to kind of try to vanquish them as well. And there's a whole new set of scoring cards, which if you play cartographers, that's kind of the meat of the game. So if there was 16 scoring cards in the base game, there's now another more 16 scoring cards. And all that stuff is mix and matchable. So
just real quick, two things I wanted to jump in on. Claire, when you're sending stuff in chat, if you want to do on the drop down, there's a thing to do all panelists and attendees. That way the link that you just put in there will get out to the retailers as well. Right now it's
Excellent.
just I want to make sure they saw that. The other thing I want to make sure is let everybody know that all of the item numbers that you see on all of the very first slides as Keith is showing them, they'll have that like TWK like 4060 there at the top. Those are all online in our system right now. So as you see those, you can search for them in the GTS system and be able to pre-order and get them all set up on everything. I do want to say from a personal level, if you haven't carried cartographers in your store before, it is a phenomenal title to have in your store. It is a low price point. It is a phenomenal roll and write game, like easily one of the best 3 roll and writes on the market right now, not just because of the simplicity and the fun of the game, but it's one that, in my opinion, actually provides you a lot of opportunity to be really artistic with the game. I have friends that I have played with that like their sheets just end up looking like things you want to frame because they use all these like different iconographies for symbols and monsters and stuff. And it just really, really brings out the creativity and stuff. So if you have, players in your store that do really well with roll and writes and you sell a lot of roll and writes, this is definitely one to take a look at if you haven't before. It's really, really solid.
Of all Thunderworks products, the original cartographers is, I need to check the numbers, but I think it may have outsold Role Player at this point. Like cartographers continues to do very, very well.
Wouldn't surprise me. Yeah,
it's great to play remotely as well, which is something a lot of people have been enjoying. Because I also offer the map sheets available for download on my website, so people, as long as one person has the game, they can everybody can play, and there's no limit to the number of players, which are great about these kind of games. I mean, obviously, there's quite a few roll and writes that play like that, but it is something to keep in mind that if you're looking to play for something remotely, cartographers works great. Anyway, so that's that game. And then Claire wanted to talk about some of the retailer specific stuff we have going on the Thunderworks website.
Yes, thank you. So in the past, we haven't done a whole lot of outreach with retailers, and we realized that this is an area that we could do better. So we are trying to figure out how to help you. And we are really open to suggestions. So if there are resources that you need for us to provide for you, we're happy to see what we can do to pull some of those things together. So one of the first things that we did was to set up a retailer portal. So you can log into a page on our website, which is just thunderworksgames.com, and /retailers will take you to a page that's going to give you links for a lot of different information. Some of that is going to be the opportunity to sign up for our monthly newsletter. In those newsletters, we often run demos of upcoming titles or other titles. Actually, in April, we're running demos of a game that Keith designed, but it was published by a different publisher, Pencil First Games. We're running Skull Hollow. So we do lots of different opportunities on there, just so that you can see the game played and have an opportunity.
The motivation is just to like give retailers a specific opportunity to try out these games, right? I mean, sending demo copies is cool, but it's kind of a custom experience for the retailer to just play a game with the publisher and show them show them how the game works or whatever, and they don't have to learn the rules themselves, and they don't have to like wait for the package to show up. They just schedule time and say like, hey, let's play cartographers online together. And sometimes retailers will jump in and just and just watch. But other times, like we love it when people play. And those are all scheduled specifically for retailers. It's not something we're doing like outside of the retailer group.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I know Jason just asked a question. He said, does Thunderworks participate in the demo program? And I don't know if we've ever talked about this before because of kind of how we acquire your guys' products. But so today we acquire Thunderworks through impressions. So we don't buy from them directly. We buy through impressions, which actually makes it really easy. Aldo's a great partner to work with and very simple. But we do have, GTS has a formalized demo program where we basically offer any partners that are in it from a publisher standpoint, we'll offer retailers an ability to buy like one copy per year at like a discount off of the SRP. With impressions, they usually tell us to direct people back to the publisher. So is that the best way to handle any kind of demo requests like that, is to just have them contact you guys directly?
Yeah, and we've been working on a similar type of program, but we haven't figured out all the details yet. So when that goes live, that would be something that we would share, on this retailer portal, if they're getting that monthly newsletter, when we're ready to launch that. But certainly if they have questions about a specific title, reach out to us beforehand. That's great.
Awesome.
Yeah. So other pieces of information that are going to come up on our retailer portal are going to be the catalog. So you can see on the right-hand side, there's a red catalog, and we're printing those out. I'm happy to send those out in the mail if anybody wants a hard copy, but there is a version of it online. And the marketing information. So I did just post in the chat a minute ago a link to a Google Drive folder for Thunderworks titles. And this is information, again, that we just started pulling together for retailers, thinking that it might be of use to you, as you're working on ordering your games and marketing your games and, making decisions in your stores, just trying to provide you with resources. So please use those. And if there's anything that you would like us to add to those, let us know. There's also if we can go to the next slide, there's the product list. So this is kind of a cheat sheet of the TWK numbers, whether or not it's available, the sizes of the boxes, if you need that information for display space, lots of different pieces of information on here that again, that we just hope will be helpful to you in some way. There's, if we have a watch it played video link that's on there, players, playtime ages. So it's kind of just like a quick cheat sheet to, what you're gonna get from all those other marketing folders without having to drill down into those. And then
there's a link to that on the retailer page, or do they have to go to the Google Drive to get to this?
Nope, there's links on the retailer page for all of it.
Okay.
And this is a really good example of something I like to point out with retailers, is that you would think every company would do something like this. Like it seems so logical to just have a very simple Excel sheet that shows, the title, the part number, the price, the age, the weight, the dimensions. It's unbelievable sitting in my chair how many people don't do this. And more so, they may do it, but they may not make it public. And really, there's no information that's shared on this that needs to be really privatized. It's stuff that anyone can have access to or be able to see. So it's really, really cool. These are things that we on the distribution side, we love to see, because this is kind of like becomes our Bible with our partners of, hey, what are your release dates planned? What are your order due dates planned? Things like that. So being able to have something simple like that is really, really awesome, because then all of us as distribution partners are hopefully providing the exact same information and the exact same content, but then it's also a way for you as retailers to be able to get up to the minute, information as well. So, if anything happens, like a boat gets delayed or a shipment gets, delayed or anything like that, as the partner updates this page, it's a great way to be able to kind of see what the dates are and how things are going down the road. So it seems really small, but it's a phenomenally awesome asset to be able to have access to. So
good. I'm glad you find it useful.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So that kind of leads into direct sales, which Scott had touched on a moment ago. We really do prefer that you order your games through the retailers. On the previous page on that product list, there's 2 tabs. The tab that was shown on the slide was the game tab, but there's also an accessory tab on the bottom. And that lists the accessories that we also offer. Now, this is something we can offer to sell to you direct if you're interested, because this is something that doesn't go through distribution. It's like our card pack add-ons for cartographers, or our game mats, or we have a dice tower coming out, and lots of different pieces that supplement the games that we're putting out, that we don't put through distribution just because of the size and lots of different reasons. But those we're happy to help you with if you're interested in carrying those in your store. On that spreadsheet, you will notice some of them are not barcoded, and I put that on the sheet if it does not have an actual scannable barcode on there. So keep that in mind when you're making those orders. We do have new product coming in July that will have some updated packaging on it, so that'll make it a little bit easier. But let's see, what else do we have here? That's pretty much it that I have to cover for the retailers. Just pretty much that we're an open box. I mean, if there's anything that we can do to help you, that's what I'm here to do, is to figure out what do retailers need. I know there's so many new products coming out onto the market all the time. If we can help you, with our product line at all, just let us know. And
That's awesome.
yeah.
Claire, I know you sent me a copy of this deck on Friday before everything. It was a Google Drive. Is that a static link that I can put into the video description when we post it to YouTube for retailers to be able to capture the deck if they need to? Maybe.
Maybe.
We'll take a look at that.
Let me clean it up a little bit. Yeah.
Yep. No worries. No worries. One of the things, and Keith and Claire, this is your first time kind of joining us on one of our webinars, but one of the things that I talk about a lot, and that we as a group have talked about a lot over the last year and a half, it's all around the idea of brands first and games second. And it's focusing on the people who have the best track records, the people from a publishing standpoint that, continue to hit things out of the park more often than not. And not so much chasing down the next hottest thing, because, quite frankly, as we've all seen, when something blows up like a wingspan, like the market's just going to naturally bubble that up, right? So instead of, as a buyer for a retailer or the actual owner themselves, chasing things down, it's usually much easier for them to focus on brands first. Thunderworks is definitely one of the brands that is like growing in the industry right now. Like, I know a lot of people tend to lean on the people who have been in the industry for a very long time, like AEG and Yellow and people like that, and they are great partners. But when I look at the future of things, and I look at, people who kind of, as I say, kind of have all angles covered. Keith, you talked about it a little bit earlier, right? You're not just trying to put things out on Kickstarter. You're also doing things direct to retail. You're not just designing your own games. You're designing for other people, and you're also bringing in other designs from other people. And you're kind of looking at the market as a complete and whole market rather than just one piece or one segment. And that, again, you would think is common sense, but it's not always common sense. So those are the things that I always tend to look for. While Thunderworks does today obviously work with Impressions for distribution and getting their games into distributors with us, this is a company that if Keith or Claire came up to me in the middle of a hallway at a show and said, "Hey, we want to talk to you about selling direct to GTS," there'd be no question about it, right? Between Role Player alone, but Role Player and cartographers and the rest of the things that are coming, there is a lot of value in this line. And like I said before, I've personally probably played Role Player a ridiculous amount of times. If you're not familiar with it, just to kind of touch on it real quick, it's a phenomenal game to have in store. It's on we have kind of like a internal list between the buyers and myself of things that we want to make sure we never run out of stock of, and Role Player is on that list because it is a game that is so easy to sell to someone in terms of what it is and how it plays. And it's an addictive game in terms of you play it once and you're like, oh, you immediately see what are things you could have done to like change things and make things different. It seems kind of silly, like when I explain it to somebody, I'm like, we're gonna play a game about creating a role-playing character. They're like, oh, I don't want to play a role-playing game. And we're like, no, we're not gonna play a role-playing game. We're gonna play a dice manipulation game, but it's all about creating your character, and it immediately like tweaks their interest, and they're like,
Right.
what is this? How do I work this? Right. So it's a really, really easy game. If you have someone who is, role playing, centric, and they love role playing, it's going to come really familiar. If you have someone that likes board games, they're going to immediately be attracted to the dice. They have these like big, 20 millimeter chunky dice in the game, which is awesome. So it's just really, really good stuff to have in store. So cool.
I agree wholeheartedly.
I was going to say, I was waiting for you to go, no, you're wrong. You're
Right.
wrong.
I mean, for me, the thing that's awesome about role players is that there's some people that you say, oh, it's a game about making characters, and people are like, you made the best game about the best part of playing D&D. I was like, yes. And then other people are just like, I don't get it. I was like, well, just play it. You'll get it. And then there's like that moment where the light bulb comes on and like, oh, I get this now. This is cool. And even there's a lot of people that don't play Pathfinder and D&D that still really enjoy it. They're familiar with a lot of these concepts from playing computer video games and fantasy video games like Skyrim or Oblivion or whatever. So it's kind of the idea of taking a character creator from a video game or from D&D and just turning that into a game. My analogy I always use that helps some people but confuses others is always like, to me, like Dominion is to Magic the Gathering as role player is to Dungeons and Dragons. It's about the pre-game, and that was kind of like the driving design force, and that obviously turned out great.
That's phenomenal. I have a lot of retailers who ask me like, what's the tagline, right? Like, how do I pitch this in 10 seconds or one sentence to someone? That's a great tagline, right? Dominion is to Magic as this is to Dungeons and Dragons. So yeah, that is awesome. I actually know people who have created a character in Role Player and then used it in their Dungeons and Dragons campaign. So it's pretty epic.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. That's awesome. Cool. Well, guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining. Obviously, like we talked about, it's just after a holiday and everything, so it's kind of crazy timing already. As we mentioned earlier, this is something that we record and put on YouTube. So any of the retailers who are here live, if you missed anything, by all means, you'll be able to check that out later this afternoon or tomorrow morning, depending on the YouTube upload gods and how they like to be nice or not nice to us. But if you do have any questions, Claire had her email up earlier. It's just claire@thunderworksgames.com. Really easy to reach out to. Claire, if you don't mind, I'll probably put that into the video description just so people can get a hold of you as well. That way they can reach out and have any questions about any of those retailer support tools or anything like that. And just as a reminder, as we talked about at the beginning, Cape May is available right now for pre-order. The orders are actually due this week. So this is like perfect opportune timing to be able to talk about it. They're due on the 9th. So if you do not have your pre-orders in, definitely feel free to get them in. If you need to up them after you see this, that's a great opportunity to do it as well. Retailers, thank you so much for joining. I really do appreciate it. If you have any questions, you can always reach out. You can contact me directly. My email is smorris@gtsdistribution.com. Keith, Claire, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And this is not a one and done by any means. We'd love to have you guys back as we get more and have new releases. And, knowing the way your track record is, by the time that Role Player 9 comes out, we'll still be having you on here, which would be awesome. So.
Well, we appreciate you having us, and obviously happy to come back anytime.
Yeah.
Excited to kind of be more connected to retailers moving forward, and I feel like this is kind of the first step in that direction, and we will continue to march in that direction as long as we can.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, guys.
Right. Thank you.
Everyone have a great week in your store, and if you need anything, just let us know. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.